Welcome to the market recap presented by Tackle Trading. Get in the game.
Good afternoon, Tackle Traders, and hello, YouTube. This is Frank coming to you with another market recap, this time for August 8th. We are sitting on a Thursday, and kind of a boring Thursday. Not a lot of dramatic things happened today. Not a bad thing, just a thing. Dropbox did report. I know not maybe the biggest company, but a lot of people have been interested in Dropbox since their recent IPO. They reported after hours. I had a chance for about 30 seconds to see what they did. It appeared that they had beat earnings and expectations, but were down about 10%. Their COO was stepping down. I don't know how much that played a part into it, but it looks like, at least, and again, we still got a lot of time between tomorrow's open and right now, but at least as of right now, it looks like it was one of those, looked like good earnings report, but it still gapped down. So we'll have to kind of follow through, see how it simmers down as we get into tomorrow's open. But for anybody who's interested in Dropbox, definitely, I think you probably knew about its earnings. You probably already knew that before I brought it up. So because it was such a boring day, I thought I would start off today taking a quick look here at Activision Blizzard, the stock that I kind of ran into a few days ago as I was doing some scanning. And it caught my attention for a couple of reasons. Certainly it's had a nice pullback over the last little while. Their earnings are behind them. And they're right now kind of sitting right on top of the 200-day moving average, which is what initially caught my attention. You know, I'm a big fan. Those who know me know this. I'm a big fan of the 200-day moving average as a potential support level. Looking specifically at Activision Blizzard here, we can see they bounced off the 200 back here, and of course, the question is, will they do it again? Right? We don't know the answer, but we do know they have been pretty responsive to that in the past. So that's kind of what initially got my attention and has kept my attention. The other thing, as I kind of got digging a little bit deeper, I went in and looked at its weekly chart to see that it was right north of its 50-week moving average as well. Both of those, the 200 daily, 200 in general, and the 50 weekly, in my estimation, are certainly strong moving averages, things that I personally like to follow. So I thought its placement was very interesting, maybe a fun one to follow over the course of the next week and see how it plays off of those averages. So I just thought I would share that with the community, see what you guys thought about it, and we'll get back to business now. So pretty uneventful day in the market, not a lot happening. We continue to hover right at just right below that resistance on the NASDAQ, right there on the S&P as well. Much like the last couple of days, bears can't take over, but bulls are just kind of wiped out at resistance. Just nobody wants to be the first man in at resistance, and I get that. So we're still kind of hanging around at resistance within the S&P and the NASDAQ. A little bit of selling, nothing major in the Dow Jones here today. But overall, they have certainly got more room to operate between where they are and where their resistance is. But overall, our pattern certainly remains very much intact from the recent breakout point. Russell continues its resurgence following getting back into that range, continuing to push up. Sold off a little bit on the intraday. We kind of find ourselves pretty much smack dab in the middle of that trading range. But again, just like we talked about yesterday, getting closer and closer to potentially testing that resistance as well. As a general rule, small cap companies can be more explosive than the large and mid cap companies. That certainly isn't always true, but I think generally most traders would agree with that. And Russell does measure, of course, the small cap segment of the market, so it can be something to keep an eye on from a technical point of view. But again, let's never assume it's going to break out. We can prepare and think about what we'll do if it does, but we also should be thinking, if we get back to resistance, we very well may struggle, right? That's a pretty important price point at this point in time. I think most traders would agree with that. Coming into our sectors, another interesting day for materials. For the briefest of moments today, they actually stuck their head above that descending trend line, only to end the day right back below. it's tough to break resistance, right? We say that a lot because it's true. So we're really, nothing really has changed in regards to where we are on the material side of things. Thought it was kind of interesting that it did put its head above there, but a close is a close, right? And we did not close, that is for sure. At least not today. Maybe they can take another run at it here tomorrow. Energy continued its downward movement following the sell-off in crude yesterday. Certainly a very weak sector today as we look at XLE. Still, nothing technically has changed. Important to note, we are a little bit of short-term support between here and, of course, our next kind of primary level of support that we've been using. But overall, we still are within that sideways range. We're just on the bearish side of things currently. Financials were able to close, in my opinion, at least above that resistance that they broke a couple days ago. Not by much. They did. There certainly was some selling, but we were able to close above that breakout point. So pretty muted selling, although of course selling is selling, but still able to hold that breakout at least for another day. Industrials are going to have to wait another day to see how they feel about their resistance, because they continue to sell off the resistance, building off of yesterday's selling pressure. Again, nothing technically changed. We still know where our major level of resistance is. We still know where our previous swing low is. So haven't changed anything from a technical point of view within the industrial sector, at least as of today. Tech slowing down, just like the NASDAQ at resistance, holding its own, but really kind of slowed down these last couple of days. Today in particular, not particularly exciting in the world of technology. Our staples, our interesting friend staples, actually now 3 days into the pullback. As you can kind of see, they're kind of the short-term trend line and their 200-day moving average now have seen no turnaround candle. So of course, as any potential buyer, well, at least for me as a potential buyer, I need to see that before anything else. But now we are at a location, from a technical point of view, that if we start to see the sellers creep out, the buyers start to work back in, probably shouldn't be too terribly surprised. We know that this has been a very strong sector overall the last few months. So that will be an interesting area to monitor going into tomorrow and, of course, next week as well. Whoops, I about skipped utilities. That tells you all you need to know about my opinion of utilities these days. Still below the resistance. We did have a stronger day, closing right below that breakout point on the utilities. So let's keep an eye on that as we move into next week. Certainly haven't broke yet. We had our fail breakout at the beginning of the week that could potentially act as resistance, probably depending on who you ask. The top of that wick resistance or not, but definitely holding its own, still floating at the top of that trading range within utilities. Our healthcare did hold its own again today, but a little bit of selling finally stepped in. And when I say a little, I do mean a little. It wasn't much. Have not started the pullback yet. Didn't even break intraday low here today, but we did see at least a little bit of selling within this, another one of those very, very strong sectors that we've got going on right now. So kind of just hanging around, taking a fight, if you will. Well, we want to see if we want to march all the way back up to that previous resistance level. So nothing technically changed on that front either. Not a lot of technical changes here today. Discretionary, right at resistance. I think, again, depending on how aggressive you are, you could argue that it did close above that resistance level here today. Certainly pushed through. We did sell off a little bit off of the highs, but continuing the overall strong momentum and certainly a little bit above resistance. So certainly not a bad thing if you're involved there technically. You're never unhappy to have a breakthrough resistance. That's for sure. And then in our real estate, we did kind of see some buyers step back in after a few days of pullback. We had a little bit of a rally going on, but kind of closed near the bottom. Certainly no confirmation, but we have started to see that maybe traders are looking at this just as a pullback opportunity. So again, another one, at least from my perspective, I'll need to see at least another candle before I can get on board with that. But I can start to see it potentially shaping up to being something I could be interested in within the real estate sector. So that's where we find ourselves in the real estate sector. we actually, in something that was kind of fun and kind of a rather dull type of a day, were able to close above resistance in the dollar index, showing great strength. And a lot of folks were looking at 95.50, as was I. We did close above that. And so that's a bullish signal. See if we can carry that momentum into tomorrow. But certainly a bullish signal. We've watched over the past week how much we've struggled at resistance. We've watched over the past couple of months how much we've struggled at resistance. So to push through is certainly a bullish sign. Whether it's enough of a sign for you to do anything, that is up to you and me as individuals. But certainly a positive sign for the bulls breaking through that resistance here today. Another day in gold and silver, another boring day in gold and silver, as traders continue to basically not care, I guess. I know a lot of folks are watching 12 as a potential support level. I've never really been a lot of great bearish setups. We just continue to float. And until something changes, I guess we'll continue to be boring within the metals markets. Not a whole lot of exciting things going on with silver and gold right now. But continuing to hold, maybe we'll go sideways for another month and actually get a potential break to the upside. That would be all right with me if it wants to play that way. I guess we'll have to see, because it doesn't care what I'd like to see. But I can always hope, right? Natural gas did build off the momentum, slowing down a little bit, but not terribly surprising. Probably couldn't keep up that monster pace that we've been on over the last 5 trading sessions, but continuing to move over on the upward swing on the natural gas. So that remains a pretty strong market right now. And our old friends at crude kind of held their own at support. So that is a positive thing. Not very positive, 24 or so hours for the oil bulls. So we'll take whatever we can get if you are a bull. But we're able to kind of hold their own at that support level, at least today. Saw a little bit of a doji and indecision come in. That something to be thinking about. Again, always be thinking about these things. If this support level breaks, would you be interested in going into a bearish position? There's no right or wrong answer. Well, there will be, but there isn't one until there is one, right? If I'm not interested, that's fine. If I am, that's great. I can be thinking about that. Would I be interested in potentially looking at a bounce if off of the support level? Would that be something I would be open to? Again, I don't have to trade anything. Yeah, I'm just not really trusting a bounce here. Fair enough, right? That's okay if that's how I feel. But I can be thinking about it so I can plan accordingly. If I'm interested in getting back into crude, hanging out at support is not a bad place to be looking at it, right? If this is just not something I'm comfortable with right now, I'll recognize its support and just wish everybody who does decide to play out off of that, if they do, wish them the best, and something else will develop in the not too distant future that I'm open to. So keep an eye on that support level, regardless of what you're going to do or think you might be interested in doing. Certainly one day in, it's nice to see that hold. Can we do it again tomorrow? Time will tell, right? So that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we find ourselves here today at the close. As always, it is my pleasure. I certainly appreciate everybody's time. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell on the YouTube channel so you can be alerted to any new videos and any new live streams that we're doing here at Tackle Trading. There's always one right around the corner. If you enjoyed the market wrap-up and don't mind, please give it a thumbs up. That's always helpful and appreciated. So thank you very much. With that, I will let you get out of here. Happy trading, and I will see you in the next one.